Welcome back to Crafting Men. I'm your host, Jared Hatch, and today I'll be talking about a topic that seems to never get old for people, and it's how to gain and secure wealth. But before we get into that, be sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the Crafting Men episodes. Now, first of all, let's level set about what we're actually talking about. Anyone that knows me or knows about what I value, I'm not talking about get rich quick. I'm not talking about cutting corners. I'm talking about holistic approaches to gaining, retaining, and securing that wealth. So if you're only looking for how to make $1 million without any money in your pocket, or how to find a way to scheme some sort of investment option in the stock markets, and I only need your bank account for it, you can go ahead and keep moving.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim.
In order to understand how to gain and also to keep your wealth, there's a fundamental thing that has to change in your mindset and the paradigm in life. And that most critical thing is you need to stop emotionalizing and making your career a personal thing. People need to understand that either one, you're going to find something that gives you purpose for doing, or two, you will do something that allows you to then do something that you find purpose in. You need to separate the two. All these people that are looking for the career that is their end-all be-all, most oftentimes those careers have a very quick plateau in revenue options and wealth potential for them. Instead of making it personal and about you and your emotions and your mission in life, you need to make your career the vehicle to your mission in life. This means that you have to have an end goal. So you have to ask yourself, when is enough wealth enough?
When's enough going to be enough for you?
Honestly, probably never.
Once you've defined what enough wealth is, you need to come up with some goals. And I'm going to give some principles for what these goals need to be. First and foremost, they need to be flexible. Second of all, they have to be holistic. And finally, they have to be realistic. I'll get into each of these as I go through some examples of goals that I have in my life. I have two overarching goals. First and foremost, I want sufficient passive income so that way I can spend time with my grandchildren and volunteer in my community. Second of all, I have accepted the reality that, like most men, I will probably die before my wife. I want to make sure that my wife is taken care of financially in the event that I die before she does. You'll notice that first and foremost, they are flexible. I don't define how I'm going to get to the passive income, and I don't define how anything will happen. This has given me a strategy by which I can use to navigate my professional life. They're holistic because embedded within these, there are some implied expectations. If I am going to spend time in retirement with my family and community, that assumes that I have positive, strong relationships with my family and my community, which means I have to pay attention to them and invest time with them throughout my working years. I cannot ignore them for 4 or 5 decades of my life and then suddenly flip the switch and say, I'm here. It doesn't work that way. The second area that it is holistic is that if I want to pass on wealth to my wife, I cannot have debt-based finances. If I hand over debt-based finances in the event of my untimely death, I cannot assure my wife that she'll have sufficient revenue to cover the expenses and the expenses leveraged against the assets that I've handed over to her. Finally, realistic. Given the constraints and the assumptions behind this, I know that I will never be the richest man in the world. I know that I will never be the richest singer in the world. I'll never be a singer. I have given myself goals that are realistic for the value that I can produce both in my professional life as well as my personal and community life. Too often when I work with younger professionals, they have unrealistic expectations. For instance, if you want to make $100,000 and you're working for someone else, you probably have to produce around $200,000 worth of value for them. That might sound extreme, but the reality is the overhead and expenses and the realization of profit for the business overhead and others that you work with are going to have to be driven and also supported. And so if you want to earn $100,000, you have to produce $200,000 worth of value. This is part of being realistic here. Now, it's very important as you think about these that you're not personalizing this career path of yours. Your career path must be the vehicle to that end goal, not the end goal in and of itself. To highlight the importance of this, put up a recent study here that was conducted in Japan. It shows the pattern by which men commit suicide. You'll see a very predictable shape here of that chevron as suicides rapidly increase throughout the middle age of men. The reason why is that at key milestones, when we assume that we will have had achievement with family and our profession, and we hit disappointments or plateaus, we feel the failure. And remember, men commit suicide because of failure, not depression. And so an acute failure is a greater risk for a man committing suicide than a long period of depression. If I flash up the woman's chart here, you'll see two very key differences. First and foremost, there's significantly fewer suicides. Second of all, there are no patterns here. So as you step back and you think about the goals you set for yourself to make wealth, make sure that they are flexible, make sure they are holistic, and make sure that they are realistic. And then remember one key point here. No one cares.
They're pretty bad.
We got wounded too. You're just gonna have to maintain your situation, over.
No one cares about you or your goal. You might be lucky to have a handful of people in your life that care about you emotionally, but that is where the support will end. You have to act accordingly. Now that you're looking at your career in a logical, impersonal view, you need to look at it not in terms of what makes you feel fulfilled, but what allows you to get to what you want. So remember, the career is the vehicle, not the end goal. So this is your transportation to your life's dream, not your life's dream. This is important because now I'm going to walk through how you start making money. Because in the law of supply and demand, the things that are in great need and in low demand are always going to be worth the most. Flip that around for you in your career. You have to think about what is something that needs to be done that no one wants to do.
Yep, it's a dirty, rotten job, but someone's got to do it.
And there you have it. Now you found yourself the highest paying option for yourself. Whatever you can do that needs to be done and no one else wants to do is an opportunity for you to make money. For instance, would you like to make over $300,000 in a year? You can if you sell deer urine. True story. Not into deer urine, but you'd like to make a ballpark of $120,000 a year? People cleaning porta potties are making that ballpark in different areas of the U.S. right now. How much education or expense do you think it took them to get into that career? Bowel movements aren't your thing? Okay. How would you like to make between $80,000 and $150,000 a year? Yeah, that's what oil riggers make. And did you know that crab boat owners can make $200,000 in 3 months during crabbing season? Now, if you're willing to handle the smell, the seasickness, and the sleepless nights of that long of a period, and in the constant sense of physical danger that will produce for a career option for you, then you can do that and still have 9 months and a boat to make even more money. I can go on, but you get the point. Find something that you can do that no one else wants to do but needs to get done. That right there is your option for making the most amount of revenue in your life possible. As you do that and you fund your life and your life's visions, you have purpose with it. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. It doesn't have to be your life's work because, trust me, it won't be. No one else will remember you for what you do for work, but people will remember you for what you do outside of work. The final secret here is controlling your expenses. It doesn't matter how much money you have coming in. If you can't manage how much is going out, you will never make enough money. And so while you're making your money, do not spend money on useless college credits that don't matter. If you're going to go to college or a trade school, make sure you go in for the minimum period of time to have the minimum cost spent to it. You'll find people that spend 6, 7, 8 years to get a bachelor's degree anymore. That is an absolute waste of earning years in their life and in money that they now have to pay back. For housing, don't get too big of a house and don't get too fancy of a car. Those things can come and will come if you have the finances later in life once you've earned it. Don't rush to the expenses because then you're going to handicap yourself in your ability to have interest work for you in terms of your investments instead of you paying someone else's investment by paying a loan that they gave you. In a nutshell, make sure your money works for you and not you for your money.
You are not my partner. You work for me.
You know, my grandfather chose his career by asking his dad who had a career during the Great Depression. The answer was the barber, because everyone still wanted to look good. And there you have it. My grandfather had a career. No, he was never one of the wealthiest men in America. There was a very small town in Washington where he was the last barber to still use the iconic barber pole outside of his store that he worked for 5 or 6 decades. He paid for a home that provided for 4 children, a home that he owned debt-free, and his business. He lived his retirement years without debt and able to visit his family around the West Coast as we'd all spread out. Pick your goal. Make sure it's flexible, holistic, and realistic. Do what no one else wants to do but needs to have done, and manage your money. That's the secret to wealth. How you do it from there is your personal flavor in your style, and that's how you get to enjoy the ride. I appreciate you spending the time with me today. Stay focused on those goals and stay focused on doing what is needed versus what you want to do. You will achieve them. Now, if you found value in this, please do subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family.